Hello, welcome back, welcome new listeners. Thank you for taking time to listen to these Dhamma talks. I hope, my intention is they may be a blessing to you, they may strengthen your practice, they may strengthen your insights, your wisdom, and that it will transform you from someone who suffers from delusion to one fully liberated. Today we're also on page 56, I'll call it 56b. We didn't complete the page 56 in the last talk, so we'll see what we can get done today. It says 6, by the way, we ended the talk on the last page with the idea that sensual pleasures are troublesome, they're problematic, but what people fail to recognize is not wanting to suffer is also problematic. We don't get to choose. There are situations that arise, including physical illness and injury, even death or death of a loved one, etc., that are beyond our choice. We need to use all experience as a teacher. We don't want to give up all the things that are pleasurable in our life. We're happy to give up all the things that are not pleasurable in our life. That means we cling, we crave for one set of experiences, and we reject, we hate the other set of experiences. This is not a balanced mind. This is not an equanimous mind. We have to see all experience arises and passes away. How fast it passes away is usually out of our control. What is within our control is how strongly we claim the experience as happening to me. We must begin to separate the experience from the consciousness of it. And this ability to separate the experience from our reaction to it is only possible by deepening our samadhi, our meditation, and by strengthening our sati, our self-awareness, so that there are fewer and fewer gaps in our sati, and that our sati always includes the half of the sati practice which says, this is not me, this does not belong to me, this is not mine, or simply no I, no me, no mine, or even more briefly, void of self, void of self, void of self. We must remember this truth over and over and over again with incessant repetitions. All great musicians and artists and athletes, even great minds, practice repetition. I'm thinking in particular of athletes who train and they repeat a certain exercises. Even after they've mastered it, they're still repeating certain exercises. I'm thinking of piano players who continue to play the scales years after they've mastered the playing of the scales. Our repetition is to constantly disclaim anything that arises in consciousness as not belonging to me. We're not disclaiming that it's not happening. We're not saying, this is not true, this is not happening, I don't believe in this. That's not what we're saying. We're saying it is happening, it has arisen, there is consciousness of it. Now, what's the truth? The consciousness of it does not mean it belongs to me. It just is something that has arisen, whether I like it or not. and liking it and not liking it will definitely be the cause of my suffering. Okay. 6 qualities required for reaching anagami. The first one is faith. Now, it's a word that has negative connotations for some of us in the West because people of faith have disappointed us, and they may have preached to us in a way that we found offensive. So it means a commitment, a determination. It means that we have a confidence. Those are some of the newer translations of the Pali word. Let's use confidence or faith. Means that we now are so confident in the Buddha, the Buddha's teachings, those who have been successful in practicing those teachings, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and we have deepened our own sense that yes, we're on the path and we will be successful. Moral shame, meaning we have an awareness that moral misconduct is a punishment that we give to ourselves. It's not someone else judging us. Although there are civil laws that we may have violated, we may have done something that requires the police to get involved in the court systems, but we now know that we simply don't want to behave in certain ways that are shameful. They are shameful because they're so contrary to the teachings of the Buddha. And then, number 3, we don't want to do any of those things because we dread the consequences. The consequences in the moment and future consequences that we could call karma. Not that the police might catch us, not that the offense is so great that the police will be called, but just that moral failings are seeds that get planted that we will reap when the time is right. So karmic seeds are like organic, natural seeds on this earth. When they are planted in fertile ground, which in this case is our consciousness, when conditions are right, that seed will rise up and bear fruit as an experience. When we have planted shameful moral misconduct, we will experience the fruit of that in a way that we will regret. So before we even do anything, we are so mindful not to behave in certain ways, not to talk in certain ways, and not even to think in certain ways. So the anagami has really mastered these first, all 6 of these, to a level that is sufficient for him to be done with the practice of being anagami. Number 4, freedom from sloth and torpor. Those are old-fashioned words. They mean mental laziness and physical laziness. So one image is possibly laying on the sofa watching ridiculous TV programs, overeating, and not tidying up, picking up, not mowing the lawn or cleaning the house or whatever else, doing the laundry, whatever might need to be done. We're too lazy to do it, whatever kind of practice we have abandoned it. We have surrendered to the temptations the world puts before us, night and day, 24 hours a day. So the Anagami has strengthened the mind to the point that it's no longer lazy. He or she, they have mastered their meditation and their commitment to their meditation. They don't have excuses why they can't meditate today. And they have mastered their sati, the practice of sati, sufficiently. They have not perfected yet, but sufficiently to graduate. By the time they graduate to Arhan, we could say they have mastered all of the enemies. The Arhat is defined by someone who has mastered all the enemies. The Anagami is working towards that goal. The fifth one is excellent sati. I just mentioned that. Where there cannot be significant gaps in our sati. Sati must notice every single thought that arises in the mind without exception. Recently, not so recently, social scientists said they thought that people have about 10,000 thoughts a day. I've mentioned this before. I think they've undercounted. But anyway, we'll use that number as so-called scientific. And you can't miss. You can't miss 1,000 a day. That's 10%, or 25,000 a day, etc. You have to catch every single thought and the emotion that accompanies it. Every thought, every experience through the five senses has an emotion because we have a reaction to it. We like it, we don't like it, or we're neutral. Those are emotions. And every thought of fantasy, imagination, speculations, etc., they have an emotional quality as well. And sati has to notice them as they arise and as they pass away. That's the work of sati. It's essential. There will be no liberation without a very, very profound ability to practice sati. And the last one, number 6, is wisdom. It's a Pali word is panya. Wisdom must be distinguished every time from intellect, from knowing something, having memorized something, learned something, having been intrigued or committed to some practice, some definition of Buddhism, being able to carry on intelligent conversations with someone about Buddhist teachings. That is not wisdom. Wisdom arises in the heart. When we have enough wisdom, we would never argue with anybody about what the Buddha teaches. We let people who are attached to their beliefs stay attached unless they have invited us to help them loosen that attachment. So it says now, Anagami still has attachments to form. In other words, he still sees things, touches things, smells things, tastes things. He has some sense that he's a person having that experience. Excuse me for always saying he. Just a habit that's hard for me to break. Formless worlds. So form would be anything you can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. There are formless worlds that is hard for us to imagine, but those would be worlds where thinking and thoughts, maybe even emotions are predominant. He still has some attachment to conceit, still has a feeling of being a person who's practicing the Dhamma, and may have some conceit about that, may be proud that he's good at it, that he's already passed 2 levels or etc. Restlessness for becoming an arhat. So when we're Sekadagami, we are striving, we're working towards, we're imagining, we're thinking about wanting to be an anagami. And that is a huge obstacle. It's paradoxical. How could we practice to become an anagami if we didn't want to? So there's the Zen koan. How can we be successful without wanting? And only we have to discover that for ourselves. Restlessness of becoming an art. Ignorance of the pure Dhamma, the truth about life and all beings. So an anagami, however advanced they may be, however close to arhat they may be, these 5 concepts or these 5 forms of misunderstanding still exist. They may be reduced by 95% or 75% or 99%, but until one has finished being an anagami, these characteristics will still be found. Now, we're going to graduate now to Arhat or Arhan, and it says a worthy one or a pure one. That would be the definition, brief English definition for the word Arhan, a pure one or a worthy one. So a pure one, of course, is pure in their mind. Their body may have cancer. Their body may suffer from any kind of disease. One of the great teachers in this forest tradition in the late 20th century had problems with his teeth and eventually had them all pulled out. In fact, he had all the remaining teeth pulled out all at once without using anesthetic or painkiller of any kind. When asked, didn't that hurt? How bad was the pain? He said, quote, "Oh, about what you would expect." In other words, we cannot purify this body because it's subject to rotting. It's subject to deterioration and death, but we can certainly rediscover the purified mind. A person whose mind is free of all defilements for the first time, one who has abandoned all 10 fetters that bind us to rebirth. Someone whose heart is free of mental effluence, thus destined for no further rebirths. It may be on the next page, and I'll won't go ahead and read that on this tape. We'll just stop at the end of page 56. But there are people, individuals who become an arhat, and that is almost at the moment of death or just shortly before death, they become an arhat. And their karma is such that the body is done. They have exhausted their karma, and the body drops off, and they are liberated from any form of rebirth. Fortunately for us, there are many arhats who become arhan, and they still have karma. They have the karma to keep living. They will experience discomfort, pain, illness. One of the great arhats in the forest tradition was bedridden for 10 years. He couldn't speak. He had to wear diapers, had to be fed, but he was fully liberated. He had karma that required his body to have these experiences before he could be released. So it's important to recognize the body never was ours, it never belonged to us. We inhabited it like these people who go into someone else's house and take over the house and act as if it's theirs. I've forgotten the English word for that. Anyway, the Arhan is liberated from all of the cravings and aversions, liberated from attachment or rejecting, which is a form of attachment, to anything that can be experienced through the five sense doors. And the secular mind has now been replaced by a consciousness that just has no interest in the bangles and baubles that the world holds out as treasures to us. Okay, gonna call it the end of page 56 today. Thank you again for making it to the end of this. I know I say the same thing every time, but it's because I mean it. I really salute you in your practice. I'm grateful for you for having a Dhamma practice. You can be certain that if you practice correctly, as the Buddha teaches, you will be successful. You will become a blessing to self and others. Thank you very much.